Roland-Garros Paris, day 6 of the French Open with round of 16 places to be won. And it was to be a roller coaster of emotions for the 2016 champion, whose frustration reached boiling point as a set slipped away. The crowd would be called into action to add their voice and make some noise before the roar that let it be known that the job was done, the ride over. Friday evening in Paris, there is still plenty of tennis to be played. You're watching live at RG. It's wonderful to have your company. And here for you is just a little taster of what's in store on tonight's show. It was a bad day to be a 4th seed in Paris. 4th seed, Sasha Zverev comes through in a 4-hour battle. While 2nd seed Wozniacki was in a hurry to get the job done. If you'd like to get in touch with us this evening, hashtag RG18, anything that's on your mind. And to keep up to date with the scores, you can stay tuned to us, and also there's Roland-Garros.com. And if you'd like to tell your friends and your tennis-loving family, they can watch us every evening from 7 o'clock via the official Roland-Garros YouTube and Facebook outlets. And again, it's lovely to have your company, as it is the company of Nick and Camille. Camille, how has your Friday been in Paris?
It's been great. I was off this morning. I went to have a massage in downtown Paris before coming here.
Yeah, I'm so jealous.
I'm sorry to tell you guys.
So is that a thing? We get
don't look
a
exhausted,
massage?
but a little massage.
You
I
look
can
relaxed.
tell you.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's very good
And
for
you-
the mind and to be like aware of what's happening here in Paris.
Well, you look very relaxed and very lovely.
You know why?
Nick, we've got a few grey hairs because there was a couple of hours earlier today when this tournament could have been turned on its head.
Yeah, it felt like a very nervous few hours, especially for the top seeds earlier, Sasha Zverev, Novak Djokovic. We're going to talk about all of it, but we were worried we were going to lose a lot of top players.
We certainly were. I mentioned at the start there is still a lot of tennis to be played. There's some dodgy-looking clouds that I'm just going to ignore because we are playing tennis. We've had a tiny little interruption earlier today, but Eli is outside. He is dry, and you're watching some tennis, Eli.
No, don't worry about the clouds. They're not going to be a problem. We are on court Suzanne Lenglen, David Goffin, Gaël Monfils. Gaël Monfils is exactly where he loves to be. He loves this court because the crowd is very close to the court. He's playing good. He's in his Roland-Garros rhythm. Remember, Gaël Monfils has made the semifinals here in the past, losing to Roger Federer, and 3 times quarterfinalist. On the other side of the net, David Goffin, the little genius from Belgium, who came in here and made a name for himself as a lucky loser. He has found his rhythm big time. He played Corentin Moutet on this very same court last year, where he won the first set very tight, 7-5 or 7-6, and then won 15 straight games to go 6-1, 6-0. So he's not number 9 in the world for nothing. Little funny story though. This is the court where David Goffin injured his ankle last year over there in the back, where he walked on the tarp. But he said in the past that, a few days ago, that is over and done with. And the last thing is that earlier in the week, unfortunately, there were some attacks in Liège, David's hometown. And that's why maybe some of you saw that he signed Liège on the camera. So he's very much with it, thinking about everything that's going on. But right now, extremely concentrated on his match.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Eli. And Eli's going to be, I don't think he's going to be staying there. I have a feeling he's going to be doing his best Eli and moving around the site because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of tennis going on at the moment. We talked about and touched on at the top that there's been some big stories today. Some of the seeds have fallen. So it's time to bring you some of the headlines for the day. And as we said at the start of the day, it wasn't a good day to be a 4th seed at the French Open after Rome champion Alina Svitolina was stunned by Romanian Mihaela Buzănescu, who just over a year ago was ranked outside the top 500. Svitolina, yet to make a Grand Slam semi-final in 23 attempts, admitted afterwards that she didn't know an awful lot about her opponent. She does now. She was beaten in straight sets. Well, Grigor Dimitrov, he went down in straight sets, and that was to the experienced Spaniard Fernando Verdasco. A really frustrating outing for the Bulgarian, who's yet to reach the 4th round in Paris. He had opportunities to go ahead in the match, but he wasn't able to take them, and afterwards he came pretty quickly into his post-match press conference.
Well, of course it's going to be a tricky one. Playing against Fernando is never an easy match. I lost him early on this year on, I think, a tight match. Today was pretty much the same. What can I say? It's just a shame because, I mean, physically I felt good, but I think obviously I lost my nerves early on the first set. After I lost that set, so it was kind of tough to recover from that. But even so, I still had some time to kind of get into a rhythm, get into a different match, and just didn't happen. You know, simple as that. And I mean, unfortunately, I have to continue and stop here. I mean, in the same time, I mean, Paris has always been, I mean, I guess, great to me, but I just could never turn it around out here.
7-6, 6-2, 6-4 Camille, and Grigor Dimitrov's bad luck in Paris continues.
Yeah, I think he cannot be ashamed of losing to Fernando Verdasco. Everybody knows he's great on clay, his experience. The problem for me is more that he lost in 3 straight sets, and that's the problem. He couldn't win one set. He's one of the best players in the world in the ranking, and that's the problem. Maybe he lost some confidence, and he's a type of player, he needs some confidence to beat those kinds of players, very powerful. And I think he was a little bit too expecting something. He needed to go more for aggressive. And I think Verdasco just played great because Dimitrov just let him play.
He's been lacking confidence all season. I mean, we saw him came through and win the ATP finals last year in London, and we thought that this was the year that Grigor Dimitrov was really consistently going to be part of the Grand Slam equation. That hasn't transferred, and he said after that he's going to have to figure out how to turn his game around into the grass season.
So the 4th seeds in both the men's and women's draw are out. It's time now to round up a few of the other headlines from Friday in Paris. And we're starting with an absolute cracker of a match. World number 3 and 2nd seed Sasha Zverev. He reached his first Roland-Garros Grand Slam round of 16 after an absolute roller coaster. It was a 4-hour match against Damir Zhumar, 5 sets. It was also Zverev's first top 50 winner at Grand Slam. He hit 51 winners to 73 unforced errors.
Yeah, for me it was the match of the day. We'll see that later, but such a fight, Nick, today on this court. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a great match actually from both players, but obviously Sasha will be happy to come through. No such bumps for Caroline Wozniacki, the number 2 seed. She's lost 11 games in 3 matches. 6-love, 6-3 today against Pauline Parmentier. Had a little trouble closing it out, but next up for Wozniacki, Daria Kasatkina, who came through in 3 sets over Sakkari. And Wozniacki has an 0-2 record against the Russians so far this year.
Yeah, we don't talk that much about Wozniacki, but she's there and she's fit.
2016 champion Novak Djokovic is into his 12th Roland-Garros round of 16 and his 43rd at a Grand Slam. He did have some frustrating moments, but was able to pull through, and he will now face the man you saw come through against Grigor Dimitrov, Fernando Verdasco.
Yeah, he did the job, but the attitude was not there. I think he needs to work on that to go further. Otherwise, he cannot make it if he's just losing a set and just being like that. So something is happening inside of him, and he needs to deal with that.
Earlier in the day on this very court, Madison Keys came through. This was a power-packed affair against Naomi Osaka, but a winner in the end. It was winner number 30 for Madison Keys in this match as she built her way through, and then a double fault from Osaka on match point. And Keys, she's another player we don't talk much about on clay, but she does get a little opening now from Mihaela Buzărnescu, who took out Svitolina, and that top part of the bottom half of the draw, it feels wide open.
It certainly does. How about in the men's, the runner-up in Monte Carlo? Kei Nishikori took 2 hours and a minute to hit 39 winners as he absolutely cruised past the veteran Frenchman Gilles Simon for the loss of just 7 games for his 5th Roland-Garros round of 16.
Yeah, I'm surprised at Gilles Simon, even if he's French, but I thought he could make maybe one set, and Nishikori was too good today.
Too good, Nishikori was, as was Dominic Thiem taking out Matteo Berrettini, the Italian. And it was a bumpy ride at times for Dominic Thiem. You can see, though, he was happy to come through. And he does face, next up, Kei Nishikori. Nishikori leading that head-to-head 2-0. They last met on clay in Rome. Nishikori winning that match 2 years ago in straight sets.
So hashtag RG18 if you'd like to get in touch with us. Now, if you were listening closely during those match points, you might just have guessed where Camille Pain is heading for Camille's shot of the day.
Watch out. Every day I'm hitting
always
Nick
good.
somewhere in the neck.
Taking abuse.
He's respecting that. No, as I said, the match of the day for me was Zverev against Zumo, and I really liked the way Zumo just fought against with his best strokes, and one of the best is the drop shot. And you can see on the image that he was very consistent from the baseline, but in the end he always tried to make Zverev run through the net because he's a tall guy, and that was the best tactic from Zumo, and he almost made it. He had match point against Zverev. You can see another beautiful drop shot from Zumo from the backhand this side, and always being very consistent. And then look at that. Wow. Just 4 meters from the ball.
Incredible. Gigi
Yeah.
called it his bag of tricks on
It was
radio because he just
absolutely
kept
stunning.
coming up with those drop shots and they kept working,
Yeah,
right?
and even if you know he's gonna make one, it's so good. So Zverev was like far away from the ball, so I
Yeah.
really like the way, but it almost made it, unfortunately for him. But in the end, Zverev is just more powerful and played good in the end, so it made the difference. But wow, that
Wow.
was my
Shot
point of the day.
Shot
Yeah.
of the day. Point of the day, shot of the day, thing of the day. Now, a short while ago, Eli said that not to worry about the weather and he wasn't going to get wet. Do you have something to tell me, Eli?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, it all of a sudden started coming down here. Match play was interrupted. We have moved to court Philippe Chatrier. There were some big drops, but the guys, the court maintenance here, told me that they were not going to cover the court up. So, and in fact, the rain is slowing down again now. There were really, really big fat drops coming down, and so they interrupted Luca Pouille and Karen Kachanov. Gives me a few seconds to talk about them. These two guys, they're actually buddies. They both live in Dubai. They've played each other twice this year. Once in Marseille in the finals. That was on a Sunday, and Karen Kachanov won that. And then the following Wednesday in Dubai, and Luca Pouille won that one. They have yet to play on clay, but you know, they've played doubles a couple times, 3 times, I think. So it's a tough match because it's always hard for friends to play. They know each other by heart. They train a lot together in Dubai. I'm confirming that the rain is definitely slowing down. It doesn't look like they're going to cover up the courts, which is a really good sign because the players are just waiting courtside. They're going to bring them back in probably in a few seconds right now, the way things are looking, and this match will be able to get on its way again.
Thank you for now, Eli, and make sure you stay dry. Right, the time has come live at RG to welcome this evening's very special guest who has coached some of the best in the business.
Le ton public aujourd'hui.
Roger Rashid, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks very much. And a little bit gloomy, but we've had a pretty good day's tennis, haven't we? And I think it's things are heating up around at Roland-Garros because we've seen some dramatic play from the women, but also from the men. So it's an exciting 2 weeks.
It really seems to have come to life this afternoon with some of the matches.
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is what clay court tennis does as well, because it's a tough sport when we get onto the clay courts, and it's actually hard to put away your opponent. There's always opportunities, and I think once we're seeing that with the women, but also we're seeing it with the men in the big 5-set matches. So that climatic moment, I think, for the fans is outstanding, especially for the young kids that are participating potentially for the very first time, coming here to Roland-Garros, seeing the new improvements, but also seeing these dramatic moments. It makes them think, wow, this is a pretty cool sport, and maybe I'm going to be a person that's on the clay courts one day.
Okay, Raj, we know you've worked with plenty of the stars, but tell us what you're up to this year, and I would imagine it's a little less stressful not to have to be on the sideline all the time.
No, I totally dislike not coaching.
Really?
I'm a guy that sort of, I'm a guy which I like impacting. I like to make a difference to people's lives and actually really sort of transition and make cool things happen, not just on the tennis court, but just in general. So it's part of my DNA. So my being on the edge day to day and actually getting a person to activate and play at this level is what I love. I like putting myself under that heat and under the pressure and absorbing that. So, but the reality is, I can't do it full time anymore. So when my daughter turned 10, I said to myself that regardless of what stage I was coaching, I would actually back off and actually come back and be dad more full time,
Nice.
and take a more of a part time role. And so I was coaching Grigor at the time, and I said, mate, I've got 2 years. At full time, and that full time's 35 to 38 weeks with me, so it's a pretty intense process, and then I'm going to have to back off to part time, which wasn't probably going to work for him. It was the right thing, so that's the situation. So I consult now to some players, some coaches, but also to other sports as well. I've always done that in the background, and obviously I'm on the ATP board at the moment as well, representing the players. So I've always liked the mechanics and the business arm of the
So
sport.
plenty to keep you busy as well.
Yeah, bit of media, as well. So it's a bit of
Staying busy still.
Bit of all.
Now,
yeah,
our discussion this evening, we'd love you to get involved. Use the hashtag RG18. And with you in mind, Roger, are the greatest talents the hardest to coach? Those some mercurial talents, trying to sort of pin them down. And I want to start really going in the deep end with you. Who would you have loved? Is there one person out there you would have loved to coach and sort out and deal with?
You can dive into the deep end anytime. There's
Is there one name? If I said to you right now, you can pick one player.
Well, I've been lucky enough to have a great smorgasbord of players. If from Leighton Hewitt, it was very committed and disciplined to the day-to-day development of his game. So whatever was thrown in front of him, he wanted more. He needed more, and the harder the better. And so he was a person that loved that appetite. Had an appetite for that. Then I jump into Gail, who's quite a completely different beast. So
That's interesting
We can
to
imagine.
switch from a player to another, with the same ranking. Not Hewitt was number one and Gael not yet, but like top players, and you could see a completely different way of living, of living on court and practicing. And it's funny for you to see that.
Yeah, totally different. Gail was 41 in the world at the time, and I know he's locked into a bit of a battle at the moment. There's no doubt against David Goffin. And that was always going to be a tussle. But for Gail, it was more for me to when he called me direct. He said, "Oh, hello, Roger. This is Gael Monfils," and I thought it was a mate of mine just playing a practical joke, because I'd been talking to a guy, one of my mates that morning about who you're gonna. He was asking me who are you looking at next, and whatever. So I hung up 3 times.
Three times?
I said, mate. Don't, it was over at dinner. I said, mate, stop hassling me. And then he eventually texted me and said, no, this is Gael Monfils. And then the collaboration was, he was really keen to absorb some of that top end behaviour and sort of what sort of I put in front of a player, and he was fantastic. I learnt a lot about his culture. You got to learn about their characters. I actually learnt a lot about the French schooling system and about the way they developed their young kids and brought them up, because a lot of that is in the upbringing as well. So once you understand that method and that sort of thinking, I could actually then adapt and put my process on top of that, and actually he could buy into that. And
But does the player you work with, a la Monfils or Hippo, they will have to buy into what you want to do, right?
buy into the joint product. So I mean, they know that my type of, I'm not here for the ride. I'm here to either go, we're going to legitimately do something every day, or I'm not really that type of coach. So I'm either, that's what I love to do. So as I said, it's about impact. So if they, and I give them the reason and the upside around that, because if you want to be that player, what drives them, what number do they want to be? Well, that comes with this type of processing. So if they want that, well, then this is the way to move forward. And Gael was great. He moved into the top 10 inside 9 months, which is a quick move from 41. So, but he had weapons. So I got a guy with weapons, the best athlete I think that's ever played tennis.
Yeah, definitely.
And so when you've got all that, if I could actually nurture it and actually get him to embrace my product, which was great. He went to Australia and did pre-seasons with me in Adelaide, in 34-degree heat, and so he embraced that product. And I think then you've got a great model for success. And look, I just think, you get one chance at this sport. And if you do have a skill set that offers you the ability to actually, it's a great sport because players have an option to actually write their own check, virtually, about what their earnings are. We can go to work,
right.
we can be a lawyer or be an accountant or be something else, and this is what we get. This is our yearly wage. Well, as a player, you've got a pen in your hand, and you've got an open check, and you can actually decide what that looks like as far as output and your quality. So it can be a big number or it can be a smaller number. And I think when you look at that, you just need to make every day count.
Huh. But when I look at your CV, you go from Hewitt, Monfils, Tsonga, Dimitrov,
Yep.
4 very different players. Is there one aspect that you can connect all of them? Was there one sort of piece that you said, this is why I want to work with them, and that challenge that they offered then for you perhaps to bring out the best in them, Raj?
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I like working with weapons. I need weapons. So even someone like Grigor was, he was about 39 in the world or something like that. But instantly it was a no-brainer if he was really prepared. There's a reason why you're 39 in the world. You had a lot of weapons, 39 in the world, not doing much. So there was, could do everything with the ball. Physically, he wasn't, hadn't tapped into that process about it. Hadn't really understand what his game looked like as far as a product. When you've got really super talent, sometimes it takes you a lot longer to mould into the tennis player. If you're quite mechanical and structured, and you don't possess all those different weapons, you're ready. You're ready a lot earlier than players like a Federer who took time to grab his game and then bang. Someone like Grigor's, we were able to sort of put his game into a smaller pocket and understand what to do and what not to do and when to use that brilliance when it's called for, and actually get on the scoreboard and not be on the highlights reel where you've got a minute and a half of highlights, but you've lost 6-3, 6-3.
Yeah.
I want to be minimal highlights, but you've won 6-4, 6-4.
Is there such a thing as an uncoachable player? And I only say this because Monfils in the past has said, I don't think anyone can coach me, and Tsonga's alluded to something. And Nick
It's
Kyrgios.
not easy to coach.
There's
No,
the
by
endless
the
thing
way.
about Nick Kyrgios saying, people say, well, you can't coach him. Is there such a thing as an uncoachable player?
I don't think so. I think everyone's
this
got
level?
Yeah, I think everyone's got access. I mean, I loved coaching Gail. We 3 years of just unbelievable stuff. There was nothing that and we're still extremely close. I like to have an enormous relationship with the player afterwards. So it's more of a mentoring program that continues on right throughout the course of their life. Someone like Nick's interesting. Nick's really keen in doing things his way. He wants to, at the moment, investigate that, go down the road of that and see where that takes him. So you've got to let a player like that, which is out of the box, do that and let them sort of exhaust all avenues, and then they will be the one to come to you. Someone like Joe was a little different. He wanted to buy into, we had a short-term agreement to buy into some real high-end, high-quality changes, and so we made a couple of really, I identified a couple of real small structural changes which had major impact. And he had a moment there where he wasn't quite beating top 10 guys anymore. He was outside the top 10, and it was about transitioning back into that space. And but yes, different guys, different weapons, different characters, but they all had, as I said, the number one thing, Nick, is weapons.
Yeah.
If you've got
You have to have
weapons,
them.
you can kill. There's no point going into the front line of a war zone with a cap gun, is there?
Right. Weapons
you can
of
survive.
tennis destruction,
You can
right?
survive, but it's going to be hard to beat the big dogs and make real progress, because you're then relying on a whole lot of variables. Whereas when you've got some firepower, you can use those, and if you can manufacture ways of using them more often, you've got great access to success.
Someone who's definitely got weapons, he's still going strong in this competition, is Marin Cilic, but it's not all about the tennis. He does have time to take a look around Paris and where he is, which is why he's put together for us his postcard from Paris.
Marin, if somebody asks you, saignant, à point, or bien cuit, where are you and what are you about to do?
Restaurant, asking about probably a steak and which kind of way you want to cook it.
How do you order bread in a bakery in France? You walk into a bakery and you have to order bread.
S'il vous plaît, pain, de pain. De pain, s'il vous plaît.
Monsieur parle très bien français.
Oui, bien sûr.
Do you know the name of the French president?
French president. Macron, yeah.
There you go.
Sorry.
No problem. Can you imitate the French accent?
Bien sûr. Comment non?
What is the name of the French national anthem?
Marseillaise?
Can you hum it?
No.
If you had to rate Roland-Garros out of 10 compared to the other Grand Slams, would it be 10, 10, or 10?
12.
What are the cliches of a typical French person?
I would say that they take care of their fashion a lot.
What sounds do you hear most coming from the crowd here?
Pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-da-dum.
You wanted to sing, right? You wanted to sing,
Yeah.
right? Can you repeat after me? Répétez après moi. Où est la bibliothèque?
Répétez après moi. Où est la bibliothèque?
If you had to convince your best friend that has never been in Paris to come to Paris, how would you convince him?
The whole city looks like a museum. Anywhere you go, you're gonna have a great time, and food is great, and a lot of things are special. And plus, to come in a time when there is a lot of sun shining.
I think Marin Cilic did really well there. And I think, Eli, that we should turn the tables on you and maybe ask you some things in Croatian and see how you'd get on ordering things in a restaurant in Croatian.
Voilà,
Where's the
voilà.
library in Croatian?
Where's the library in Croatian, Eli?
There's one in every city. So here's what happened. It went dry, and people were not understanding why the players were not coming back on court. But that's because the weather is ultra precise here, and Camille knows this, having played here. They know like every minute what's going to happen, and sure enough, the rain came back, started. Now it's stopping again, so people are wondering what's going on, and yet they're getting ready to cover the court up. That means they know something big is coming. So this game is going to stop for a little while. These guys are going to be sent down from the relaxing rooms, or the whatever you call it, down to the locker room to actually regroup. And then they'll do a whole new warm-up. And I think that after 20 minutes that the game is stopped, then you start again, you reset the match. So for the moment, no play.
Thank you, Eli. And make sure you do stay dry. Looks a little bit fed up down there, doesn't it? But hopefully the weather will clear. If not, we just resume again tomorrow.
That's a good result, though, from Lucas Pouilly, because he was struggling in that match. So
Yes,
he
the rain
actually
came
was
at the
going.
right
He was
time.
doing the dance around around his chair.
And time to leave.
Gotta go.
But it's not easy to come and go back and come back and forth. So just to see that players are warming up every time, as Eli said. So it's not easy to deal with that. If you know if you need to eat or not or wait, all those
Just get a
things
bit
are very tricky.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Just don't look at weather apps. They all say something completely different. Someone who got their match done and dusted before the rain came was Novak Djokovic. He was also here quite early. Was it this morning he got in quite early?
Yeah, very early this morning. He helped out with the waking of the grounds with the ball kids this morning. Novak always, I think he does silly really well, but he had a good time this morning with the ball kids. This has become a little bit of a tradition. He's done it here. We saw him do it a few weeks ago in Madrid. He's always having fun, Novak.
Yeah, he is. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he engages the fans, engages these kids. Now, these kids are the future, they're future tennis players. So we see here this generally happens every year, doesn't it, where the ball kids get involved.
They love him here.
Such a great memory for those little kids because they're very good. I mean, there's some testing, high-level testing to be a ball kid in French Open.
I love their warm-up around the ground every morning.
right.
I've always loved that, where they all go, and it's so, it's a really good ambience and environment to be in for these kids.
Just wonder if Novak knew the word. There's a chant that they do, and I don't think Novak necessarily knew the words to that. But otherwise, he did pretty well leading the charge.
Well. And for you, how well do you think Novak's going to do the next couple of weeks?
Well, I liked what I saw today. He got stuck into a bit of a dogfight where he had to hit a lot of balls back. He had to compete. He had to dig deep and use a lot of his physicality as well. So that mental mindset of actually surviving and getting through a tough match, which it was always going to be. So more of those matches go forward for Novak, and I think we're going to see more of the player that we saw. So, yeah, he's a little disappointed at times throughout this match, but I just liked what I saw as far as the mentality of the way he went about
physically?
it. Physically, look, it's time will tell. We haven't seen him yet into that. This was quite physical. This became physical, and he was able to run away with the fourth set. So that's a really strong sign for me. And mentally, just don't underestimate what that does. That's a lot of fuel for him, because he'll start to feel like and believe that he's getting to where he needs to get, and that makes him dangerous.
Yeah, and I think also that he begins to be more aggressive in general. He's coming back, and for me, he needs to go forward, and he didn't wait for Bautista Agut to miss in the important moment. And I think that's why he's coming back like little by little, because he wants to to be more aggressive, to find nice angles, and not just waiting, because he's so strong physically. He could wait for ages, but in the end, it doesn't work.
And you'll see when Novak's really Novak, because he uses the lines a lot more. So he's virtually a 50-50 ratio through the lines. There are times when on his comeback he hasn't been that person, because that's just a natural. You can be number one in the world forever, but if you've missed a period of time, it still doesn't feel like that's not enough. You know, you need to just play matches. You need time on the court. That's why a real question mark is over Andy Murray. We hope he gets involved. I'm not sure whether we're going to see him through the grass. I don't think so. And then, you know, he needs time as well to rebuild himself. But we want these stars playing.
We certainly do, and we have for you tomorrow's schedule. Now, it might change a little bit if this rain continues, because there are a few matches, some that haven't actually made it out on court yet. But, Roger, we're getting to that stage of the tournament. Look at some of those matchups we've got.
Oh, the one from Stosur.
Well,
You
Sammy
like this
Stosur.
one,
There we
huh?
go,
Sammy Stosur.
That one. I mean,
Aussie.
she's a strong player on this court.
She looked good,
Yeah,
huh?
she loves this court. She loves what the ball does off her racket and off the ground. So Muguruza, the reason why this is a hard matchup for Sam is she gets the ball fast through to Sam. Sam likes time. She can take that away. So that's an interesting match for me. Fognini and Carl Edmund, that will be quite an interesting one. And also Serena Williams backing up against Ash Barty. What we saw from Serena was that, again, what we're talking about Novak, that real match play grit.
Yeah.
It was back. You know, that sort of fire and that commitment, and also the commitment to the ball. When she was in trouble, she found a way to hit herself out of trouble, and she was actually had that real raw intensity again. So that's an interesting sign for her. I mean, don't be surprised if we see it's a massive journey through for Serena. When you look at this match, potentially Maria Sharapova, you know, so there's sort of great matchups for that section all the way through. It'd be one of the amazing Grand Slam victories if she happened to get there. It's a long way to go, though.
And, Roger, your winners of the men's, well, maybe that's the same as everyone else's, is it?
Yeah. Who? Djokovic? Novak? No. Oh, it might be Novak. Look, you know, I mean, Rafa, obviously, he's the absolute standout. But you know, this is a sport where there are two players on the other end of the court. Anything can happen. You can have one of those days where nothing happens. Doesn't really happen very often for Novak here. So as long as you give yourself a chance.
And your women's winner?
I want to lean with that's tougher. I want to lean with Simona because Darren Cale's a good mate of mine who live in the same, you know, an Australian coach who I think they were a bit unlucky here, but I'm going to still hold on to her. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to hold on. Roger, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much
thanks,
for
Thank
joining
Thanks
us.
very much. Pleasure.
And you managed to
Thank
stay
you.
dry for half an hour because we're nice and
No,
covered
brilliant.
here. So thank
It's
you very
brilliant.
much.
Thank you.
We're still not sure if the matches are going to restart this evening. Keep an eye on the official Roland-Garros Twitter feed. You can see that really disappointing site that the covers are on, but they are protecting the clay because they know that something is coming in. But you've got all the official feeds, you've got the website, you've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please keep an eye on those to see exactly what happens with the play, and also if the schedule has to be changed a little bit. Don't forget, we are with you every night, 7 p.m. local time, live at RG. To join in the discussion, hashtag RG18. It's been a pleasure once again to have your company. Thank you for being with us, and we will see you same time tomorrow night. Bye for now.